You guys probably heard that Silicon Valley Bank, or SVB, shut down yesterday. And it's really a shame. Their diversity, equity, and inclusion score was off the charts. And I also say they're on their way to net zero carbon emissions, which pretty awesome. That was expedited yesterday. But um, they have shuttered their doors, and who has taken over the FDIC? And does this ring any alarm bells in anybody's head about 2008 and what's going on? And I'm going to attempt to talk about the dominoes and what I think is going to happen here, or at least what's going to be attempted to happen. Here, so let's take a look at this article here from CNBC. CNBC, the organization that employs Jim Cramer, who was saying the stock was a buy not 1 month ago. Says here at the top, Silicon Valley Bank has shut down by regulators in the biggest bank failure since the global financial crisis. Financial regulators have closed Silicon Valley Bank and taken control of its deposits, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation announced Friday, in what is the largest U.S. bank failure since the global financial crisis more than a decade ago. A lot of key players, a lot of investors in Silicon Valley, startups, have their money in SVB. And SVB had a lot of money in government bonds, which it was one of the catalysts for them going bankrupt, for their assets and liabilities to be mismanaged. Because remember, if you buy bonds and the interest rate on those bonds shoots up, which it has in the last year, the bonds you were holding that you bought a year ago are now worth less than they were, right? Because yields and price are inversely correlated. What does that mean? That screws with your assets and liabilities. So here's what I think is going to happen. Especially this weekend, people are working overtime, and you're going to probably see this on the news. They're going to start calling for a bailout. That's right, just like in '08, a bailout. Now, they might not take the tact of, hey, these poor bankers, um, they can't, they're not going to make ends meet, yada, yada. They're probably not going to take that tact because that's not very popular. What they might try is a national security tact. Hey, China is progressing faster than us in technology, and this bank finances a lot of technology in Silicon Valley, and this will put us 10 years behind if all those companies go bankrupt. And all these politicians are going, oh, yeah. So what they're essentially doing is asking the people of East Palestine, SVB is asking the people of East Palestine to help bail out their bank, also known as the taxpayer, to help bail out their bank. Now, apparently, this is against the law. I don't think the law has ever stopped a politician, but apparently, this is against the law now to have a bailout from the taxpayer. That doesn't mean they'll call for it. That doesn't mean they'll show politicians the consequences of if they don't. And politicians, you know, they they have friends in high places, and who knows if that will actually happen. But one of the contagion effects of this is USDC. If you're not in the crypto space, USDC is one of the largest stablecoins. It's essentially a dollar on the blockchain. And what they do is they take your dollar. So let's say you want to buy a USDC coin. It makes transfers on the blockchain a lot easier. You buy that and you exchange your actual currency for this dollar that they minted because you gave them the currency. And then they take your actual currency and they buy treasuries with it. Seems like a great plan. Money printing plan for Circle, the parent company of USDC. Here's the problem. Like I said with bonds, if those yields go up rapidly, the price goes down, and they're holding a lot of their capital in SVB Bank. And now the USDC coin, which is supposed to be $1, is 89 cents. Pretty much overnight. Not good. Definitely can cause some contagion effect. Let's keep reading what's going on. The collapse of SVB, a key player Sorry, the collapse of SVB, a key player in the tech and venture capital community, leaves companies and wealthy individuals largely unsure what will happen to their money. Well, the FDIC will insure up to 250,000, and the rest is up to you. That's what will happen to your money. But do you think they're going to be happy with that? I don't think so. Monday morning, they're going to have conferences up in Washington. They're going to be begging for a bailout, and Washington politicians are going to be, you know, a little trepidatious about doing that. But then they're going to say, "Well, China's going to beat us in World War III and the technology war if you don't bail us out." Uh-huh. Yeah. It's just okay. Further reading. The FDIC said it has announced insured depositors will have access to their deposits no later than Monday morning. SVB branches offices will also reopen at this time under the control of the regulators. People were just waiting in line outside SVB Bank. It's just brings me right back to '08. Whether depositors will with more than 250,000 ultimately will get all their money back will be determined by the amount of money the regulators get as it sells Silicon Valley Bank assets, or if other bank takers ownership other banks take ownership of the remaining assets. Why do we even have regulators? They're supposed to are they just there to once the fire starts to be like, "Hey guys, there's a fire." Yeah, yeah, we saw it. Yeah, it's like you're supposed to prevent it. But no, they ain't. It's just unbelievable. So here's I would think a real juncture. Because if you remember back in '08, it's not as simple as people say. It wasn't just like bail out these banks because you're a crony capitalist and you want to bail them out. It was collapse of the financial system. That's what politicians were looking at. Collapse of the financial system or take taxpayer money to bail out these banks. At least that's what the choices they were presented. Who knows how true that was? They didn't know how deep it went. This is very similar, in my opinion. And so who else has money in this bank? Circle definitely does. A lot of Chinese companies do. Up to 96% of deposits are not FDIC insured, meaning people have over 250,000. 96% of the deposits in SVB Bank are over 250,000. So this would be, let's just say the bailout happens, which I don't put it past Washington. Let's just say the bailout happens because it's the lesser of two evils. We need to take some money from East Palestine to bail out these people in Silicon Valley. And I laugh because this is how politicians think. But let's just say they do that. That is such an ignition. That is pouring gasoline, propane, you name it, anything flammable on the fire of inflation if they do that. And that signals to more banks, like it did in '08, that we will have capitalism for your gains, meaning you can keep them, and socialism for your losses. So start taking risks, baby. Start taking risks. Because if you have to be taken over by regulators, guess what we're going to do? We're going to take money from East Palestine and give it to you. We're going to take money from blue collar folks and give it to you. Just like the college bailouts. Absolutely insane. All right, guys, let me know what you think they'll do in the comments below. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.